Even after his victory at the Battle of Gergovia, Vercingetorix was facing significant disadvantages that threatened his revolt in many ways. Despite what Caesar claimed, it is unlikely that the Gauls ever had a large numerical superiority over the Romans. Their infantry was clearly outmatched by the Roman legions, and the Gallic cavalry had already proven incapable of facing the Germanic riders. After a failed initial attack, the Germans gained higher ground and launched a counterattack that forced the Gauls to retreat. In response to this situation, Vercingetorix was forced to retreat and chose to take refuge in the fortress city of Alesia. However, the march to Alesia came at an additional cost in terms of casualties. Caesar quickly ordered his legion's baggage to be moved to the nearest high ground, assigning 2 of his legions to protect it, while the rest of the army pursued Vercingetorix. This pursuit continued until nightfall, and according to Caesar, the Gauls suffered another 3,000 casualties before finally reaching the safety of Alesia. Alesia was the capital of the Mandubii tribe and was located on a limestone plateau approximately 1,300 feet at 400 meters above sea level, occupying an impressive position. Knowing that Caesar would follow, Vercingetorix began preparing for a siege. By that time, he understood the critical importance of supplies, so he dismissed his cavalry, which would be useless in a siege, and instructed them to gather support from all of Gaul. However, shortly after the cavalry's departure, the Romans arrived at Alesia with the direct attack impossible. Caesar's only viable option was to capture Alesia through a siege, which required the construction of fortifications. In the following days, the Romans focused on building a trench around Alesia to completely isolate it. Afterward, they began constructing a wall facing outward that extended for more than 16 kilometers, designed to contain the Gallic army. To protect against surprise attacks, 23 forts were erected along the perimeter of the siege wall, serving as garrison points. Inside Alesia, the Gauls prepared with hooks, harpoons, and siege ladders, which would be necessary to attack the Roman lines once help from outside arrived. This help finally appeared, with Caesar recording a number of 250,000 Gauls, although he likely exaggerated this figure. Nonetheless, it is safe to say this was the largest army ever assembled by the Gauls, and the tribes involved in this conflict included nearly all those Caesar had conquered since 58 BC, highlighting the impressive scale of the revolt. And the Gauls planned to attack the Romans on 2 simultaneous fronts. Vercingetorix would lead an assault on the enemy's internal lines, while the newly arrived commanders would coordinate attacks from outside the walls. Caesar found himself completely surrounded by the Gallic forces, but there was also a critical stalemate. The resources and supplies of Vercingetorix were rapidly depleting, making the situation for the Gauls even more desperate. Faced with extreme scarcity, Vercingetorix was forced to make a painful decision. He sent out all non-combatants, including women and children, who were starving. This crowd of innocents headed toward the Roman lines seeking help, even offering themselves as slaves, but the Romans refused to let them pass. At the same time, the Gauls surrounding the city also refused to take these people back, resulting in a tragedy where these innocents were left abandoned in the midst of the battle lines, facing a terrible fate due to the lack of food, water, and shelter. Moreover, the Gauls failed to effectively coordinate attacks between those inside the walls and the forces outside. Eventually, Caesar led a decisive charge at the right moment, repelling the Gauls. The superiority of Caesar's auxiliary cavalry played a crucial role in Vercingetorix's defeat. The Germanic cavalry seized the opportunity to encircle and attack the Gallic warriors as they retreated, demoralized and with scarce supplies. The Gallic reinforcements began to scatter, leaving Vercingetorix isolated in Alesia with no realistic chance of rescue. And the Roman legions were too exhausted to immediately pursue the retreating Gauls. However, at dawn, Caesar ordered his cavalry to chase the retreating Gauls. The Roman riders managed to reach the rear of the Gallic forces, inflicting additional casualties during the pursuit, further increasing the pressure on Vercingetorix's army. Inside Alesia, the situation was desperate, with the only prospect being a slow agony caused by hunger. The day after the battle, Vercingetorix convened a meeting with tribal leaders and decided to offer his own surrender to Caesar. Vercingetorix sent messengers to the Romans seeking the terms of the agreement, but the response he received was uncompromising. Only a complete surrender would be accepted. Plutarch narrates that Vercingetorix made a dramatic exit from the city, dressed in his finest armor. He rode through the gates and circled around Caesar, who was seated on a tribunal in a symbolic gesture of surrender. Vercingetorix dismounted from his horse and threw his armor to the ground, then sat at Caesar's feet, remaining motionless until he was taken into custody by the Roman soldiers who would keep him captive until Caesar's triumph in Rome. The other Gallic warriors were handed over as slaves to the Roman legionaries, except for the Aedui, whom Caesar allowed to return to their homes, respecting their previous alliance with the tribe. Vercingetorix, on the other hand, was chained and sent to Rome, where he remained a prisoner for the following 6 years. In 46 BC, Caesar finally had the opportunity to celebrate his triumph, and Vercingetorix was brought out in chains before Caesar's chariot, serving as living proof of Gaul's defeat. This was a traditional custom in which a captured enemy leader was paraded during the Roman triumph. After this event, Vercingetorix was finally executed. This dramatic turn of events marked the end of Gallic resistance. However, the Gauls never forgot the period when they were united as a nation under Vercingetorix's leadership. And after Vercingetorix's defeat, Caesar and his Roman legions launched campaigns among the Gallic tribes to eliminate any possibility of revolt, allowing the Romans to achieve the much-desired peace in the region. Over 8 years, Julius Caesar not only conquered all of Gaul, but also parts of Britannia. This achievement not only solidified his control over the region, but also made him extremely wealthy thanks to the resources and loot obtained during the Gallic Wars. Moreover, he gained a legendary reputation as a strategist and military leader. The Gallic Wars played a crucial role in Caesar's rise to the Roman political scene, providing him with the legitimacy to later wage a civil war against Pompey and the Roman Senate. And if you enjoyed learning more about Caesar's conquest of Gaul, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'll be signing off now. So until the next time,